I'm still recovering from the weekend. I just got back to SoCal today from a fantastic CEO 2015 tournament. There were a lot of interesting things, and it makes Evo just that much more confusing to evaluate overall. So, off the top, I was really impressed by Leffen's day 2. He utterly destroyed Armada in the Fox 6-1. And debatably, I thought it should have been 6-0. Leffen through game 1 in grand finals, but props to Armada for really capitalizing on Leffen's carelessness. So we have a lot of firsts for Leffen. So this is the first time that Leffen has, not only made it to grand finals at a U.S. National, this is the first U.S. National he's ever won. And so that's just really exciting and really hype. So the TSM wondered. Congrats to Leffen. I think the 2 sets against Armada are very impressive, considering Leffen has had a cold streak since Armada has fully switched to Fox. Although Armada, Leffen did beat Armada at Paragon. When they've been playing the Fox Sito ever since, Armada has had the upper edge. So props to him, beating Wizzy, beating Plup, beating Shrooms, and then beating Armada. I thought it was a little fortunate for him to avoid Mango, who I think is his weakness, but given how well Leffen was playing, I wouldn't have been surprised if Leffen beat Mango. So Leffen breaks his curse. Meanwhile, Armada has a strange curse on him that he has not broken, and at every super major. By the way, I don't count CEO 2014 as a super major, and a lot of people argued with me on why. So I'm just going to do a quick aside and say that CEO 2014 had, it did have a decent amount of people. Not as much as this, not as nearly as much as this year though. They didn't have as much top 50 talent, and so last year I didn't really think it was a super major. But aside from that, Armada has this strange curse where every national it looks like he dominates the rest of the field, but then he loses 2 sets to the same guy, and then he just loses. So it's kind of devastating because of how consistent Armada is. He could probably beat everybody else. Just one person will just double eliminate him. So at MLG, Mango double eliminated him. Evo last year, Hungrybox double eliminated him. Big House 4 was an exception. I forget who he loses to winners. He loses to Mango and losers. At Apex, PPMD double eliminates him. And at CO 2015, Leffen double eliminates him. And so, just a tragic second place curse. And it's a little pattern that's developing. This is something similar to what Armada went through prior to his reign that started back at Genesis 2. He took turns losing to Mango at one turn at Genesis, then lost to Hungrybox multiple times at Apex 2010, and then lost to PPMD at Pound 5. So maybe this is like a precursor. Maybe Armada will rule for 5 years. Who knows? Very impressive play. I think he's shown dominance over Mango. So, if Armada and Mango play at EVO, I think he gets... You'd have to give him 1 to 4 odds to win for that. Where I think he's like an 80% favorite to beat Mango, which is surprising. But just the fact that Armada's Peach and Fox beat Mango's Fox, and the only matchup that Mango wins in the counterpick battles seems to be the Falco versus Fox. So that's going to be a lot of trouble for Mango Nation. Mango number 3, I was very disappointed in his performance. It seemed like he just barely scraped by, and I know every year that Mango, mysteriously turns it up at EVO, but last year he turned it up prior to EVO, and he just doesn't look like he's in tip-top shape. I feel that he's got a lot of fortunate calls, or he's won a lot of fortunate sets that went down to the wire, and I'm not sure if it keeps going his way, just given how, not only how Armada and Leffen and all these people are improving, but just the second tier of players like Plup, Shroomed, Axe, all the people that can give Mango a feasible threat. I think they may just start taking sets, and Mango might even go as low as ninth. I know that's as ridiculous, but if we're to go on the spectrum of level of play, if like Mango were to play like absolute garbage, and he continued to do what I saw at CEO, I could see him losing to someone good in winners, like an Axe type of player, and losing to Plup in losers and getting ninth. It's not the most likely outcome, but I feel that there is a chance that that can happen. So for Mango, I'm not too worried about him overall against a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people overall. I think, he does well against Leffen. He does well against Hungrybox. But there are a lot of people that, given some odds, they can take Mango in a best of 3. What's interesting overall, as a Sheik main, I was really hardcore geeking out because of players like Drug Fox, people like Plup, just really showing the raw potential of Sheik in the rising meta. Shield dropping, just platform movement, and just reaction tag chases actually make the Sheik versus Fox matchup very doable. And even Sheik versus Falco, it just looked kind of hard for Falco to rack up significant damage because every time Plup got on a platform and he put his shield up, it seems like when he played Westballs and Zoo, Westballs and Zoo just had no really good angle to really hit Plup without risking getting hit themselves. So just with all the new technology, and I think as Plup continues to improve, I think he's really going to show that Fox is only a slight favorite and not a 65-35 or 60-40 that we once used to think it was. The tragic thing is that Pokemon Stadium 2-0'd Plup. It was really unfortunate. I really think that I hate Stadium, but it's like the lesser of two evils right now. Because if you ban Stadium, then you only have 5 stages for a best of 5, and so the stage dilemma becomes interesting. So it's unfortunate. I don't know of a solution to a rule set. Granted, Plup could have converted maybe a little bit better on tag chasing, although it was very impressive. I think he averaged about 75% when I actually replayed the matches. So maybe if he bumps that tag chasing to like 80% or 85%, then maybe those matches wouldn't have been as close, and maybe he would have defeated Leffen without having to worry about the stage. And I think overall, when you look at the brackets, they're going to make a huge difference up ahead. I mentioned before, not to really take away from Leffen's win, I think he deserved it. He played the best, but I think, if he had, let's say, like Mango, if Mango didn't lose and scrub out against Shroomed, maybe Leffen doesn't make it to winners finals, and we see Mango versus Armada in winners finals, and then Mango double eliminates Leffen, and Leffen gets third. So every player, I always say this, but every big tournament, with a few exceptions, the player that ends up winning does get a little bit of bracket luck to win the tournament. Mango, avoided Armada last year, and I thought that was huge. Not to discredit them, but just to really show that brackets do play a role in determining the final outcome. So, if you're Leffen, you want to avoid Mango. If you're Hungrybox, you want to definitely avoid Armada and Mango. PPMD is a wild card. I don't know who he wants to avoid. I feel that Leffen gives him, a run for his money. So out of all players, I think he would want to avoid Leffen and PP. Armada would want to avoid PP and Leffen. So there might be, a side of the bracket at Evo. I'm not sure what the seeding is, where one player, gets the matchups that he wants and then just makes it through. And that's just the reality of it. Other things that, really stood out to me, the Moon played very well. I really liked what I saw from the Spacey matchups. And I think, with a lot of the top tier matchups, he does really well. So he's really strong against Fox, really strong against Falco. He can beat Sheik pretty well, although he has random losses here and there. And so if the player like the Moon gets like a bunch of Spaceys at Evo, then maybe he does get top 8, or maybe he gets tied for 9th. But if he gets like a bracket where he gets like strange characters like Link or some low tier, then maybe he just loses. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the brackets play out. I was really impressed with 20GX, Gatsu, and Gravy. Gravy almost defeating PPU, and Gatsu defeating, winning 2 money matches over S2J. Really liked what I saw in terms of they're not only refining just the tech chasing and the regrabs, but I saw noticeable improvement from Gravy in terms of his neutral game. I played him back at Big House 4, and I won most of our matches. Almost all of them actually, and it was just mostly because I was exploiting his neutral game. But I think Gravy is constantly improving in that, so I have to give him a lot of props for fixing a lot of holes that I used to exploit back 6 months ago. Gatsu did pretty well too, and it's very impressive, and I'm really just excited to continue to just see what they continue to improve in. Wizzy, if he had a better bracket, I felt that he could have made it a lot farther, but Westball's Falco against Falcon is just too much, and so Westball's ended the run of Gatsu and Wizrobe. But if they got like Fox, they got Sheiks, they got Marts, and they avoid Ice Climber. If they avoid Ice Climbers and top Falcons, I think they can do really well at Evo. Punish game was really just insightful for me because when I watch the 20GX people, it seems like they make very basic solutions to things. But when I watch Armada's Fox, especially in the Fox Ditto, he makes the decision making really easy for himself. So when he up throws, he makes it he boils it down to okay, can he DI a platform, or is he gonna land on the ground, or can I get a regrab? And based on that, it's okay, he lands on the ground, reaction tech chase up smash. If he lands on a platform, I'm gonna react in up air and do more up airs, and then get them off stage and get an edge guard. If he can regrab, he regrabs. So it's just really phenomenal just to see how easy he makes it seem just to combo with Fox. And not to belittle Armada, I just think it's amazing just how consistent he makes it and how easy he makes it look. Of course, there's still a level of execution that still really you have to do, but it seems like Armada rarely drops combos unlike other people. So let's see some other things. What was I thinking? I think Hungrybox is in a lot of trouble right now. Armada destroyed him. Mango, as usual, beat him pretty convincingly 3-1. Not only is Mango a huge issue for Armada, or Mango a huge issue for Hungrybox, now Armada is a huge issue, and that's another player that Hungrybox has to avoid, where he has a very slim chance of winning. And so, unlike last year where at Evo, Hungrybox had Armada's number at that point, he's gonna really have to do something to win and overcome, because I don't think he's going to be able to avoid both to win. And if he doesn't find a solution, I give him his chances, in my opinion, of winning Evo decrease from 10 to 15% to 2 to 3% if Armada is that much of a problem. And then moving on to Evo, seeding is actually really weird in my head. Leffen, Armada, and I were talking at the pool on last night, and the big dilemma is, where do we put PPMD? Because people are saying, you can put PPMD at number 2 behind Armada, but PPMD hasn't played for a good 6 months, and so how long are people going to carry this legacy of not playing and factor that in? So if we go to Evo 2016, for example, and PPMD has still not yet gone to a tournament, do you still give him number 2? What about in 2017? What about the winner? At what point do you go okay, PPMD, you haven't played for X amount of time, and we're gonna give other people seeding over you because they have performed and shown results, whereas we're speculating on potential right now. And the reason why I say that is because people extrapolate. I extrapolate. But we look at last year where PPMD did well in the winter. Other than Skitar 3 didn't attend much, and then just does terrible at Evo 2015 and does terrible at MLG 2015. And that's by PPMD standard. He just didn't look good playing the game. And so it's going to be interesting. We had a lot of debates actually at the pool on what we thought the first through 4 seeds were going to be, and it has to be some combination of Armada, Armada probably at number 1, and then some combination of Mango, Leffen, and PPMD from 2 to 4. I think overall people are knee-jerking Leffen too high, personally, because of, we look at, Leffen's performances after Apex and before CEO, and in that gap, Leffen underperformed considerably, losing to Axe, losing to Hugs, losing to SFAT, other than beating Mewtwo King, dropping like 10 sets in a row to the Big Six. And so it's going to be interesting. I don't think Mango really deserves it either. I think Mango has been struggling, losing to West Balls a lot, losing to Shroomed. So I don't really know, looking ahead, who I would give the second seed to. I don't want to give it to... I don't think PPMD frankly deserves it, just the way that he hasn't attended anything. I think you should reward players that have been attending and have been winning tournaments. So that's an interesting debate. Maybe you guys can talk about it in the comments section of, who your first 4 seeds would be. 5 through 8, I think, would be, in my opinion, some order of Hungrybox, and then I would reluctantly give it to Mewtwo King, given that he beat Plup, and he's, been a slight favorite against Axe in the last, 4 to 5 sets. Number 7, I'll probably give to West Balls, just given, how well he's been doing in the past 3 to 4 months. And then number 8, I would give Axe. So that would be my first 8 seeds if I were to seed Evo. And then beyond that point, it just gets so complicated, and I would have to pull out hair to really do 9 through 16. The TO and the viewer inside of me would look to aim to seed in a way that I would be able to see matches that I have never seen. And so that's kind of my personal biases. So, for example, if West Balls is number 7, I would not get Plup number 10 because I've seen that so many times in the past 2 months. I would rather put Plup at 9 so he plays Axe, which is a matchup I've never seen before. Because with 9 through 20, to be honest, the skill level is so close that you can switch to people 5 seeds and it would be justifiable. So overall, it's going to be interesting. It's an exciting summer. I think CEO was a great event, and it just opens up just many different possibilities of what to expect at EVO.